Good afternoon, and thank you to the listening and viewing public joining us across multiple platforms today, as well as the members of media who are joining us virtually. As the general public is no doubt aware, the country is experiencing the effects of inclement weather at present. And that reality, along with the official statement released this morning by the Met Office with regards to a tropical wave which has formed and is moving in the central Atlantic, has prompted the government to ask the Minister of Rural Development and Local Government, the Honorable Faris Al-Rawi, along with Minister, the Honorable Marvin Gonzalez, in his capacity as acting Minister of National Security and Minister of Public Utilities, Minister the Honorable Rohan Sinanan, in his capacity as Minister of Works and Transport, along with retired Brigadier Major General Rodney Smart, CEO of ODPM, and Ms. Arlene Aaron Morrison, the acting director of the Met Office, to join today to bring the public and the media present up to date with the current state of play. And with those words, I will move over to our Minister of Rural Development and Local Government, the Honorable Faris Al-Rawi, who will take the show from here.
Thank you, Honourable Minister. Good afternoon, Trinidad and Tobago. We're here for a conference which is important, and we're asking all persons to please pay kind and careful attention. We are here to report on 3 events that are going to line up and affect us in Trinidad and Tobago. Yesterday, there was a yellow alert issued informing that inclement weather would hit us today. That alert has played true to form. In the second lineup, however, we had a press release come out of the Meteorological Service, that's the Met Office, today. It was issued at 8:48 a.m. this morning. And that has advised that there is a strong tropical wave in the Atlantic. That is lining up immediately behind the yellow alert that we had yesterday. So that's event number 2. There is a third event which is potential, and that is activity off the coast of Africa. As we know, waves form off of the coast of Africa and then find themselves across a line into the Caribbean and then tend to swing northward. In those circumstances, the government has actioned its team. The ministerial team before you today represents that high-level team. That is the Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government. We are basically the action items on the ground, because we manage 14 corporations and we'll add CPEP to that, altogether threaded by our disaster management units. Secondly, inside of that coordination principle are 2 very important elements. That is the Ministry of Public Utilities, which brings all utilities into works. That is WASA, that is TNTEC, that is SWIMCOL. Those are 3 critical entities, and therefore the Minister of Public Utilities has direct involvement. The Minister of National Security is currently out of the jurisdiction, and Minister Gonzalez is functioning as National Security, as Minister of National Security, and therefore bringing the resources of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service as well as the Trinidad and Tobago Defence Force and Fire Services is another critical aspect that joins the ministerial operation. We have added on to that the coordinating arm of the Ministry of Works and Transport, which is where Minister Sinanan kicks in. Of course, highways, drainage, and facilities all fall under the Ministry of Works and Transport. Coordinating all of these elements is the unit referred to as ODPM, the Office of Disaster Preparedness. That's where Rodney Smart steps in as its CEO, and they come to life when required. That is when local government can no longer handle the capacity, further resources will come in. We have attended here before you to indicate that it is critical that we take advantage of preparation. Why preparation? With 3 systems coming potentially back to back, we only have one opportunity to prepare, and that opportunity is right now. Fortunately, as the country is well aware, the Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government has been out every single week for the last couple of months in a survey and clean campaign. We are today wrapping up the efforts in Point Fortin, and that makes corporation number 10. We have 4 more corporations ahead of us. That is Couva, that is Chaguanas, that is Sangre Grande, and that is San Fernando. We have, together with the Ministry of Works, been conducting activities there. So let me get now to the drill down point factor, and then we're going to spread the load across respective ministers who will report to you on positions. Trinidad and Tobago, please be aware that with heavy precipitation or rainfall, we are going to have volumes of water upon us. That means our soil is going to be saturated. That means the risk of landslides and slippage is going to be there. All of the usual suspects are therefore going to fall into play. Flooding, overflowing, etc. Now, the best of preparation cannot stop volume analysis. If the rivers are full and the tide is high, as it's going to be at 3 o'clock this afternoon, then you're going to have difficulties with volume moving out to sea. In those circumstances, the Ministry of Works and Transport has been very busy for the entire season, and the Minister will report to you on this shortly, on pumps, on banking, on embankments, and on rivers. But we have summoned today at the Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government, first of all this morning, a disaster meeting for all of the regional coordinating arms in the DMU units. Secondly, we have summoned and have held a meeting with chairmen and CEOs of all of the corporations. Some chairmen couldn't make it because there's an internal election afoot in their arm, but they did send their CEOs and representatives, so they are dialed in. The Prime Minister himself, as of last night, triggered full activity from California. The acting Prime Minister, the Honorable Colum Imbert, held a meeting of all ministers this morning in this team. That is Minister of Communications, Minister of Works and Transport, Minister of Rural Development and Local Government, and Minister of National Security, Minister of Public Utilities, activating the ministerial team. I would like to say that it is important that we prepare. Parts of our rivers do not have embankments for encroachment reasons. Therefore, it is imperative that persons access their regional corporations. We invite you to access our website and each of the ministry's websites. We'll be pushing notifications to the public very shortly. We have sent all corporations out to do what we call a baseline analysis. That is to physically get to the usual suspect sites and our regional positions to ensure the state and condition as at 2 o'clock this afternoon, which is now. That report will come in and we'll push that forward. We have already placed assets along the major arteries and positions. Ministry of Works and Transport has, and the regional corporations have. We have identified where our assets will sit in the event of a slippage, that we can move from either end of slippage or blockage points. It is imperative that farmers and that citizens that live in low-lying areas accept the reality that with heavy rainfall, there may be flooding issues. We have seen this year after year, and we see it globally going on. The key point is sandbags are available, sand pits are available, corporation assets are available. We are invested in tree cutting and monitoring exercises, but with the best of preparation, acts of God still happen. So it is imperative that we take advantage of preparation up front. Quite simply, as I end, before I pass off to the Minister of Public Utilities, is to say we must always prepare for the worst and pray for the best and expect the best. I'm sure that you'll have questions that need to be answered, and I will join you back at that point. At this point, may I pass over to the Minister of Public Utilities, Acting Minister of National Security, Marvin Gonzalez.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. To apologize for that, Minister Faris Alwari, and also want to thank my other ministerial colleagues, Minister Rohan Sinanan, as well as Minister Simon de Nobrega. So I'm here in my capacity as the Acting Minister of National Security, as well as the Minister of Public Utilities, just to inform the national community that all utility companies are on high alert. The Water and Sewage Authority, the Trinidad and Tobago Electricity Commission, and SWIMCOL, to give value and to give support to all our sister state agencies as we go through this very difficult weather condition across the both islands of Trinidad and Tobago. I've already had meetings with the head of the ODPM, Major General Rodney Stewart, and Rodney Smart, I do apologize for that. And he has advised that the National Emergency Operations Center is fully activated, and the National Emergency Operations Center comprises of the Trinidad and Tobago Police Service, the Trinidad and Tobago Fire Services, the Trinidad and Tobago Defense Force, all utility companies and agencies, the Ministry of Health, as well as SWIMCALL. Together with me is Ms. Aaron Morrison. She's the Acting Director of the Meteorological Services Division of the Ministry of Public Utilities, and the Met Office is performing a vital function to notify the people of Trinidad and Tobago of the present state of the weather situation that is affecting or will be affecting our country at this present time and over the next couple of days. Just to advise again that the Met Office is on top of things. We have the best technology available to us to disseminate timely information on the weather situation moving across this country as well as the islands. And the Met Office continues to provide the people of this country with valuable service. So the head of the ODPM is also with us, and he is going to disseminate any information that will be considered necessary to advise the national community in the way in which we activate and we coordinate the activities of all state agencies to respond to any emerging disaster. So without any further questions, I will ask Minister Sinanan to make some opening remarks. Thank you very much.
Thank you to my colleagues. At the Ministry of Works and Transport, we would have started our major desilting program as early as January this year. So far, we are well underway in that program, and that would have shown us that with the downpours we got over the last couple of months, the rivers were able to withstand the volume. I've always reiterated that the flooding has a lot to do with the capacity of the channels and the volume of rainfall. So far, we have been able to cope with it. However, what we are seeing on the horizon coming to us is a lot more downpour over the next couple of days and into the next week. So we would continue to monitor and to continue our desilting program. But what we actually would like is that, we all as citizens do our part as we go forward. The flooding that we have been getting is basically in the low-lying areas, and a lot of it is street flooding. The rivers are cleared on an ongoing program. However, we are faced with 2 high tides every day, and that has some hindrance into the outflow from the river into the oceans. We will be out there, the team is out there already monitoring any area that could have any blockages or so, and we would, like the population, if they have anything to report to the ODPM, so we can get equipment and personnel out there to clear the blockages as they occur. In terms of the pumps and gate system that we're happy to announce that we have pumps at all our sites, working pumps, and we do have people on the ground monitoring these pumps to ensure that once they have to be activated, they will be activated. So all our pump sites do have adequate pumps at this point in time, all working, and we are in a mode of preparation to ensure that we have people on the ground. We also have a lot of equipment placed at different locations, so should in the event of a landslip or so, it will not take too long to have equipment on the ground and to have it cleared. We are sending some equipment up to the north coast. We have some equipment going up to Blantyre, all the areas that are prone to landslips, because this is not the first time we're going through something like this. The ministry would have deployed equipment, and we are working with some of the contractors that have ongoing work in certain areas to have their equipment available. So in the event of an emergency, we will be able to trigger an immediate reaction to bring back that level of normalcy, especially on the main thoroughfares and so. So having said that, I can say that we are quite prepared to handle the disaster, that if in the event of any disaster that may occur within the coming days. Thank you.
If I may just rejoin. Ladies and gentlemen, the line of coordination is your first port of call is the regional corporation. And therefore, in these circumstances, there are 14 regional corporations. Please reach out to the corporations to identify issues in advance of heavy rainfall happening perhaps 3 times in a row. We are also very interested in your communicating risks to power lines, that is trees, etc., or positions. Now, even though we have literally moved thousands of truckloads in cleaning over 10 corporations, it is important that you continue to report your activities. So line of communication is as follows. Reach out to your municipal corporations. Secondly, communicate effectively what the nature of your issue is. Their websites are active. The telephone calls are all activated. In the event that telephone calls are thick and therefore you can't get feedback, it is imperative that you put your issues. If you can share your location and pictures, it helps tremendously. In the local coordination of municipal corporations, our disaster management units will effect that coordination so that we will pass the message to our sister agencies, WASA, TNTech, etc., fire services for tree cuttings, etc. So it is important that you maintain the line of authority. The second aspect of communication is going to be to prepare in advance for things that may happen to your furniture, your homes, etc. If you know that your area is prone to flooding, please take preventative measures in advance. We are in the yellow alert of the first event, which was triggered yesterday, and we have received issue number 1. In the United States, they are referring to this system, that is the second system that we're looking at now. It is L94. In the United States, they're referring to it as Bonnie. It is not yet named, but I've noticed that people are asking whether this is Bonnie, and it is not yet named, so we're looking at that system. It's expected that by Tuesday, and remember, things can always accelerate on you, that system may or may not find its way to us. We will ask the Met Office to explain this to you, as Arlene is here with us exactly for that purpose. In those circumstances, your livestock, your homes, etc. are critical. I should add that the Ministry of Housing is going to have a role in ensuring state and preparedness of its HDC communities. We have investigated the pumps, etc., in places such as Greenvale and other areas where we have degrees of flooding, and have had historical reference for that. But remember, self-preparation is key in this dynamic. Minister of Communications, may I invite Arlene to bring us the Met Office explanation of what these systems are actually about and what we can expect from them.
Hi, good day, everyone. Thank you, Minister. So what we're looking at, the second system, it's a tropical, potential to be a tropical cyclone. So a tropical cyclone is a large-scale system. It forms over the tropics or subtropics, and there is a defined circulation. Now we have a variety of that. It is tropical depression, tropical storm, and hurricanes. The difference is the strength of each of them. So of course the hurricane is the higher one, and we have different categories of the hurricane. So as everyone is rightfully saying, we need to be aware of what is happening outside there and prepare ourselves.
Thank you very much. Chairman, CEO ODPM, over to you.
Thank you very much, Honorable Minister. Good afternoon to the viewing and listening audience. Whenever the ODPM gets involved at the national level, it says that something serious may be happening. And therefore, the fact that the ODPM is here today at this press conference is an indication of how serious we need to take the warnings, the alerts that we have been getting from the Met Office. That in mind, as Minister Arawi would have indicated, 14 corporations, their disaster management units, are already on standby. Alongside the 14 corporations is TEMA, the Tobago Emergency Management Agency in Tobago, and they too are on standby. the ODPM would have reached out to our disaster response agencies, the first response agencies, and they are all ready and raring to go. You would have heard about the activation of the National Emergency Operations Center. The virtual activation has already taken place, and in the event that the situation that we face becomes extremely serious, then the circumstances will be handed over to the ODPM to assist the Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government in managing the affair. So all of Trinidad and Tobago response agencies are on alert and ready in the event something should happen that really challenges our society. Thank you very much.
I've been asked to please reinforce the messaging to persons that deal with livestock. Remember, in the event of heavy rainfall and flooding and other issues, our livestock management is critical. So please, if you are involved in that area and you're aware of positions, we want to make sure that we have contingency plans. Remember, we move from a state of preparation. In the event of something happening, it's then we move to activation. We can put as many resources and people into effect as possible in anticipation of something, but nothing trades off common sense preparation. So ladies and gentlemen, please pay careful attention to these issues. Minister of Communications, perhaps you may wish to introduce questions.
Thank you very much, Minister, and thank you, Ministers, Acting Director and CEO, for your initial remarks. We now move into the question and answer segment. Of course, the media representatives will remember the rules of engagement. You are kindly asked to state your name and your media house before putting your questions to the panelists. Responses will be given to 2 questions per media personnel in the first instance, and if time permits, we will accommodate additional questions for each media house. We will begin with Jensen Lavend. Jensen.
Hi, good. Hello? Hello?
Yes, we're hearing you, Jensen. Please proceed.
Yes. Good afternoon. 2 questions. One for Mr. Alwari and the other. Please forgive me, I forgot the young lady's name, a representative from the Met Office. My question to Mr. Alwari is you have repeated this call for us to be prepared and for us to be alert and to remove our livestock and be concerned. Is it then that the government is sort of bracing themselves to avoid compensation? Because we have been seeing these things happening year after major flooding, there's call for compensation. Is it now that the government is to use the local parlance take in front?
Well, that's a rather interesting spin on preparation. It is squarely, Jensen, just to answer your question, it is imperative for the government and for the ministry, which I now manage, to ensure that we do our job. And the disaster management units fall under the Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government, as do the 14 regional corporations, the Rural Development Company, the Municipal Police, and CPEP. So we've been alerted, quite simply, to, number 1, yellow alert yesterday, which is going on as we speak. Rainfall is happening. Number 2, we're told that there is a powerful tropical issue development happening. The Met Office has told us that in a written bulletin today, which we anticipate to mature during this week. And 3, we know that there's activity off the coast of Africa. In all those circumstances, it's just prudence that we take proactive steps to make sure that everybody is as prepared as possible. Remember, we have to anticipate that we're going into a week where schools are open. Some of our disaster stations are actually our shelters, schools, and therefore we will be keeping an eye on logistics. How do we move people? When do we send signals if necessary? A lot of this is anticipation in the event of something happening. Alternative routes are important, and therefore we will be mapping out what alternative routes look like in the need of using one, if there's a landslip, etc., etc. As to your issue of liability, of course, liability is something that is managed by the state in very careful circumstances. As you know, I'm fairly comfortable in that arena. to say the least. But this isn't an attempt to avoid liability. It's good sense and preparation. You know that old saying, prevention is better than cure. We do have a certain amount of coverage that is offered in terms of insurance in disaster preparedness, and there is state liability and proceedings. And of course, there's exculpation of liability for events of what you call an act of God. So let's not get down that road. Let's just instead prepare. I hope I've answered your questions. Arlene, the second question is to you. Jensen?
Yeah, sorry, I was muted again. Sorry, in answering my question, Minister, you did answer the second question I had for Ms. Ali. So I will hand it over now and
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Minister, the second batch of questions is going to be coming from Ms. Soyini Gray from Guardian Media. Unfortunately, her mic is giving her some problems, so she has sent her questions through to me here. Her first question to you, Minister Al-Rawi, is why was the advice to prepare not done before? And that second question is, will the We Clean initiative from your ministry continue?
Well, Soyini, thank you for your question. The Ministry of Rural Development and Local Government has been on the campaign literally since March 16th. When I entered the office and held those reins, I took over from a very capable Minister, Kazim Hussein, and we have been in that preparation mode. We have been literally preparing every single week, as you're well aware. We're on corporation number 10 right now. We're literally on the ground in Point Fortin as we speak. So why was the information to not prepare given? I don't quite catch it that way. We've certainly been preparing actively. Minister Sinanan has told you since January that the desilting program has been very active in the Ministry of Works and Transport, and so therefore we have been preparing. We also, as much as we would like to be in the forefront, have to wait for certain triggers. So we had a yellow alert yesterday. We weren't too concerned about the yellow alert other than our normal activity preparations. But when you get a yellow alert followed by the Met Office telling you, listen, midweek you may have a powerful cyclone coming at you, then you got to ratchet up another notch. And particularly if you're paying attention to the coast of Africa, you have an obligation in the hurricane season to do these things. So whilst we are today, Sunday, looking at Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, what we need to do is to make sure that our good citizens who tend to wait a little too late for things to happen, that they are awakened and get themselves in order, because there's nothing to beat preparation. You only have one opportunity to prepare, and that's before the event happens.
Minister, can I also add that as an MP and someone who came from local government, the We Clean initiative has been has real impact in terms of what will happen with inclement weather. So that has been ongoing, and we are definitely seeing the positive impact of that. Can I ask, Jensen, is your hand up for another question, or did you forget to put it down?
Is up for another question.
You can go ahead.
Hello? Sorry, my headphones is giving some problems, so there are times that I'm not hearing you clearly. I'm just hoping that you are hearing me
Yes,
clearly.
Jensen, we are hearing you. You can go ahead.
Yes, with respect to this and all that advising us to do, any consideration was given to, at least for this week, reinstitute the work from home policy, so that would make traffic congestion a little less.
Employers have liberty and latitude to do as they see fit. Obviously, business continues as normal, so the government is not making any specific recommendation in that regard. We are just asking ourselves to be prepared. Feeding in information as to what needs to be done to the corporations is the key point, because obviously we don't want to find out that there was a tree that was going to fall that everybody knew about and nobody saw too. So making those reports are critical. The liberty of employers having their own discretion is entirely up to them. The government makes no call for that, but however, persons are invited to have preparation. We expect, if you've seen the yellow alert from yesterday, by 8 a.m. tomorrow morning, we expect the yellow alert to be lifted, God willing. What we're doing is we're preparing for what I call next on deck. Next on deck is L94, which the Americans are referring to right now as Bonnie, even though we've not labeled it in technical terms yet.
Thank you again, Mr. Minister Al-Rawi. The next question comes from TTT News, a representative, Terry Ann Brown Campbell, who also seems to be having some problems with the connectivity, has asked two questions. One, should parents go ahead and send their children out to school tomorrow, and as an addition to that, or in an abundance of caution, keep them at home?
So yellow alert says that we should have a dissipation of the yellow alert in terms of the tropical activity that's going on, the rains that are hitting us right now by 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. So all things being equal, please go to school. Please get your education. Most people are in exam season right now. Let's not cop out and cause any difficulties there. We are tracking the weather system literally from the coast of Africa straight here. And therefore, that's where the Met Office comes in. And if and when there is an issue to be addressed, there will be public notice to that effect, and we will give you ample time. So school is on, all things equal. Let's make sure our children get educated and that they pass their exams, because most of them are in exam season right now.
Are there any other questions?
If there are no further questions, Minister, just a quick closing remark. Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, prepare, prepare, prepare. Let's not give the story after the event. If you see something, say something. How can you say it? You can say it onto the web portal at the regional corporations, each one of them, San Fernando, Chaguanas, Diego Martin, Rio Claro, whichever place you live or go, Point Fortin. Send the information. Secondly, please anticipate that you may need assistance, and therefore plan your households, plan your livestock, plan your routes. Let us remember that with heavy rainfall and soil saturation, that we are at risk of landslides, and therefore it is imperative that we pay attention to lives and livelihoods. So let us make sure that we do our very best. The government is on full alert. We are in upfront preparation. The best of preparation can only take us so far. We also have to make sure that we enlist the strength and purpose of the Almighty in this exercise as we all press on and do what we need to do. We will, in our further ventures of We Clean and Survey campaign, we have 4 more corporations to hit. So we are actively pursuing them, and we will be in that dynamic. We're into Couva next. We then follow with Chaguanas, and we go to Sangre Grande and then to San Fernando. That does not mean that we are not in the middle of doing lots of work otherwise. I do notice, Minister, that Jensen's hand went up again. I'm not sure if it's a fresh question. Perhaps you have room for one more?
I'm sure we do. Jensen is famous for one last question.
Thank you very much. Well, it's 2 last questions. We have 2 gentlemen there. I don't want to leave them out. One for Minister Sinanan and one for Minister Gonzalez. Mr. Sinanan, you spoke highly of the pumps working, all the again, preparedness in place. You have different assets, using the word of Mr. Al-Rawi, set up at various places. In terms of finances, I don't know if you have the figures in front of you. How much money would have been spent this year in preparation for the rainy season, in terms of clearing, desilting the rivers, and these things? And for Minister Gonzalez, we have not forgotten the day that we went without electricity for well over 12 hours. Going into this type of weather, what, if any, assurances can you give that this incident may not reoccur? Not that the power be knocked out, but it would take that long for it to be restored.
Okay, so let me take the first up. Basically, our desilting program runs from January to almost the end of the financial year. We would have targeted close to about 400 projects in 4 phases. Phase 1 being the most critical, and you go down the line. We would have completed phase 1, which is most critical. Phase 2, which were the critical ones, we're into phase 3, and in some cases, phase 4 would have started in some areas. In terms of the budget, again, it's all a projected budget, and only when the project is completed and based on the availability of fundings will I be able to give you a ballpark figure. But what I can tell you is that based on the 400 projects that was looked at, you're looking probably up something close to upwards of $50 million in that desilting program. In terms of the pumps and so, you would recognize that we would have had some challenges with some of the pumps being vandalized over the last 6 or 7 months. We had pumps in Port of Spain, the pumps in Bamboo being vandalized. But what we were able to do is to bring in some mobile pumps to substitute these pumps. Now, again, those are pumps that we own at the ministry. The challenge we have is that we have to actually get those, in some cases, brand new pumps that were vandalized up and running. That is going to cost us some money. I think the estimate for the Port of Spain pump is probably close to about $700,000 to get that pump up and running. But what we can assure the public is that we do have mobile pumps to substitute all the pump sites. And as I said, all the pump sites do have working pumps at this stage.
Minister Gonzalez, before you take the next question, and I just want to add a question that was asked by Suini Gray for Minister Sinanan. Suini has asked, how are they going to keep the pumps running given a nationwide power outage knocked out all the pumps in Trinidad?
We do have our pumps that they work on fuel, diesel. In the event, the pumps that we have that are electric pumps, they also have the option to work with diesel. We do have the mechanical department. They would have teams out there ensuring that the pumps don't ever run out of diesel, and so I don't see that as too much of a challenge, because the pumps that like the one at Bamboo, which is an electrical pump, you can also work with diesel in the event of a power outage.
So thank you very much, Jensen, for that question. The circumstances surrounding the island-wide blackout earlier on this year have been fully ventilated. The facts are out in the public domain, and I see it completely different from incidents of outages that may occur during very difficult weather conditions as we're expecting right now. So, but I can tell you that the Trinidad and Tobago Electricity Commission is fully equipped and it is fully ready to respond to any difficulty that may exist or may arise on its distribution grid. I recall last year, during some very difficult weather conditions, there were a number of outages across the east, the northwest, and central Trinidad. And within a short period of time, over a couple hours, most communities that were affected by these weather conditions, TNTEC responded and restored electricity supply to all of those communities. Sometime last year, the Ministry of Public Utilities, working alongside TNTEC, we've acquired a number of amphibious equipment for TNTEC in order to allow the utility company to access some communities in difficult terrain. And therefore, I feel very confident as Minister of Public Utilities that the Commission continues to be equipped, continue to be ready to restore any disruption that may occur on its distribution grid. And therefore, I look forward to the continued work and the professional work of the Commission. And again, just to remind you that the island-wide outage that occurred earlier on this year is quite different from an emergency that may exist on this occasion.
Minister, just to add, we instructed all of our disaster management units and all of the corporations to go and do a physical check of all assets, generators, etc., so that we're aware of the state and condition in the event that something like that happens. Secondly, a question just came in on my phone, and I thought it important to at least answer it. Persons have been asking where they can get sandbags. Every regional corporation has sandbags, so please contact the regional corporation that you are in, and please pray that you actually know which corporation that you're in. It's all online. they will have sandbags for you, and we can get things moving at that end. Thank you.
A very important issue I think I need to raise is the fact that during difficult weather conditions like these, as we're expecting, a number of WASA plants, especially located in East Trinidad, that rely on surface water sources, for example, Aripo, Guanapo, Hollis, North Oropouche, serving hundreds of thousands of customers, especially in East Trinidad. Those are surface water sources. And normally under extreme weather conditions like these, you have to shut down the plants because of dirty water entering into the filtration system. And you shut down the plants, and that is because you wish to avoid the possibility of dirty water entering into people's home. Oftentimes people ask question why we are not getting water when rain is falling heavily, and that is because those plants rely on their water intake from surface water sources, and because of the deforestation and a number of environmental challenges taking place in East Trinidad, in order to protect the health of customers, the Water and Sewage Authority would normally shut down those plants and get them up back and running when it is safe, when we have clean water entering into the system, so as to allow the water to be treated so that they can be disseminated back into the distribution grid. So it's very, very important. But we are not there as yet. We are not there as yet. But I can tell you, if such situation does exist, the utility company will respond to shut down those plants and get them back up and running when it is safe to do so.
Thank you so much, Minister. Minister Al-Rawi, a question has been sent in to me by Priya Bihari of AZP News, and I think it is something that we should address frontally. He has asked if there was an overall cost that was worked with for this week, and if private contractors are being asked to help, and what role can they play?
Thank you. Yes, there's an overall costing that we operate on. It's part of the regular appropriation. So corporations go to work based upon what they've been given. In the campaign that we initiated, that's been ongoing for 10 weeks in a row right now, what we did is we clustered assets. So we borrowed equipment from different corporations and we added it into a massive exercise each weekend, descending upon collecting and moving the things which we had done during the week. That was supplemented, yes, by agencies, WASA, TTDF, etc., SwimCall, and of course the CPEP. We have literally had hundreds and hundreds of workers descend every weekend or every week into positions. We have had the benefit of many volunteers in terms of the contracting community. I should tell you that I reached out to almost all of the contractors today to put them upon standby notice in the event that there is position. Minister Sinanan alluded to that, because obviously many contractors are mobilized on sites engaged in existing works for the government and for the people, and therefore the proximity of those assets has been taken into account, and the state and condition of standby has been sent to all contractors. Many have already responded positively to say we are on standby. Our equipment that is on site will be available in the event that you call for it. So it is very much a public and private partnership approach. As we get to issues of procurement, we'll make sure we dot I's and cross T's. Of course, we welcome volunteers all along the path.
Thank you very much. I want to close by firstly thanking my colleagues for joining us today, Ministers Al-Rawi, Gonzalez, and Sinanan, as well as our representatives, the CEO of ODPM and the Acting Director of the Met Office. I want to again thank the media for joining us today to assist us in getting that information out to the general public. You know, we usually end these press conferences by saying, please remember to wear your mask, wash your hands, and watch your distance. However, I'd like to add to that this evening and say, can we also heed the call of Minister Al-Rawi and remember to prepare, to plan, and to communicate with your corporation representatives. Thank you very much for joining us.
TDT News, committed, accurate, relevant.